Hello, good people, and welcome to Hillbilly Cat History, Drummer Dojo Dreams. And today, we're walking back into the dojo, and we're going to be hearing more from Master Kongri. And we're going to also bring in a new name, a name that I'm going to guess most of you have never heard, but someone who is intimately tied into the legend of Elvis Presley. But before we get there, we're first going to enter the crucible of a warrior.
Feel a flame, hammer in hand, carved out his name. 16 and airborne boots in the dirt, jumping through walls, unbaptized and hurt. Karate in Japan, fists like steel, champion of honor, deadly and real. Sensei, a warrior's no room for doubt. You wear the G or you train and come back. Your eyes a crucible, baby, not a showbiz belt. You bleed, you break, you feel a warrior's spell. Elvis hit the map, but he rose with a roll. Sneer in his soul, ready for war. It's burning, burning, burning through the pain. Crucible of a warrior, forged in Hank's domain. 30 throws, not dances, a fight. Bones to set, boards shattered on sight. Shoot-o elbow, fingertip flame. Every strike a prayer, every cane a name. 6 weeks of fire, no cameras, no fame. Just sweat and bruises, no more play tame. Saw came in, fist like a stalling said, put him down, break ribs if it's known. It's a crucible, baby, not a velvet crown. You fall, you crawl, but you don't stay down. Elvis hit the map, but he rose with the raw. Sneer in his soul, ready for war. It's burning, burning, burning through the pain. Crucible of a warrior, forged in Hank's domain. All eyes watched the king that day. Would he crumble or would he stay? But Hank saw it, war in his eyes. Not a quitter, but a fighter who rise. From Hollywood lights to dojo dust, Elvis earned it not on fame but trust. No stunt, no script, just grit and bruise. Black belt truth, not a headline roots. A crucible, baby, not a stage or set. You earn every inch, every beat of sweat. Elvis hit the map, but he rose with a roar. Sneer in his soul, ready for war. It's burning, burning, burning through the pain. Crucible of a warrior. They burned through the fire, broke through the fear. The dojo legends and kings stood clear. Crucible of a warrior. Elvis was here.
Thank you for gathering here at Hillbilly Cat History, where we remember together and listen for the echoes. And today we're hearing the echoes of a drummer's dojo dreams. Hi, Linda. Hi, Marion. Hi, Gunn. Thank you so much for joining. And Gunn, I'm glad you're here because we're going to start out with the answer to a question that you had. And you wanted to know, did Red West have an animal name that was given to him by Master Kongri? So I heard Master Kongri speak about this, and he said that his own name is the Ox. So Kongri, I don't know if he chose his own name or if he was given that name, but he declared that his name is Ox, and that he gave Elvis the name Tiger, and that when Elvis had him travel to see him in Las Vegas, and we heard in an earlier episode a story about the very first time that Master Ree ever heard an Elvis song, which was his performance of the Aloha from Hawaii concert that Elvis had played for him on record there in the suite, that Master Ree suddenly realized his legs were wiggling on their own and that he was dancing to the music. And if you didn't hear that story, be sure that you head back into the archive and you check out some of the past episodes, and you'll find that story. But while he was there, they all sat down to eat breakfast. And Master Ree, Elvis, and a lot of other people are there eating breakfast. And Master Ree says that Elvis, he describes the breakfast that Elvis eats, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But the others at the table, they wanted their own animal names. Now, I've got to assume that Master Ree has already named some of them because they come to his dojo and they work out and they practice. But some of them, I don't think they work out and practice at karate. So I'm not sure that he actually named them here at the table, although he might have named a couple of them at the table. But they went around the table and he said what everybody's name was, and they had a good time with it. Elvis is named Tiger. Red West, his name is Dragon. And Master Ree explained that Red West was very powerful and he was very aggressive, and that the name Dragon fit him perfectly. He also mentioned that Elvis was amazed at Master Ree's ability to size a person up after he'd only met them once or twice and be able to give them an animal name that so closely matched their real personalities. So these names, Elvis agrees that these are the proper animal names for these individuals. Sonny West, Red's cousin. So Red West is Elvis's friend that has been with him since 1955. They did go to high school together, Humes High. They grew up in the same area of Memphis. They got into the same kind of brawls and fights as kids because they ran around in similar circles. Red was a star football player for the school. Elvis wanted to play football. Elvis wasn't able to play football because he had to work to earn money so that his family could eat and pay rent. They really were not doing well financially in Elvis's sophomore year. And that's really when he would have started playing football for real in high school. And he was on the team, but he left. Some people say it was because he didn't want to cut his hair. The coach says it's because Elvis was hungry, and that there were times that he himself, the coach, would loan money to Elvis. Not so much loan. He gave money to Elvis to purchase lunch, because otherwise Elvis would have nothing to eat. And there were days that Elvis just went without food, without lunch. Maybe not without food for the whole day, but he didn't get every meal. The coach saw this, and the coach knows young males in high school, and he knows they're hungry all the time. He knows they eat a lot. So he knows that when Elvis says he's got to go earn this money. He knows it's absolutely true. And he tells that story later on, and maybe we'll look at the documentation for that story one of these days. But that's who Red West is in connection to Elvis. Sonny West is Red's cousin. Red is a year younger than Elvis. I think Sonny is even a year younger than that. He might be Red's age, but I think he's slightly younger. Sonny went into the military after high school, came back, started selling appliances. So like he would sell washing machines and refrigerators. And he was doing fairly well, he said. Fairly well for a beginning appliance salesman. But he was earning money, bought himself a car. That's about the time Elvis came back from the army. Sonny had already met Elvis through Red. They had played touch football together. They had gone to the roller rinks together. Sonny had impressed Elvis in 1958 when they were at a roller rink together. That's why he remembered Sonny. And he put him to work. So from 1960, when he came back from the army, just slightly after that, Sonny, Red, they're with him until 1976. So this is a very long relationship between Red and Sonny and Elvis. So when it disintegrates in 1976, it's a huge rupture in the life of Elvis. It has a great amount of meaning to it. And everybody knows about the rupture, but we only really know what Red and Sonny and Dave said about it through their book, Elvis, What Happened? And we don't really know what the rupture itself was. We know what Red and Sonny and Dave say it was. But at this time, when they're with Master Ree, Red, Sonny, Dave Hebler, Elvis, they're a very tight unit at this point. So if you've ever wondered about this rupture at the end in 1976, it's very important to understand this relationship that they all have that centers around this martial arts. Now, Red and Sonny, obviously, they have a deeper connection to Elvis. Dave's connection is almost solely martial arts. And then he has personal conversations, obviously, with Elvis, but he doesn't have the long shared history that Red and Sonny have. Red and Elvis, same high school, same background, spent a lot of time together in the car, 1955, 1956. Sonny, same background, grew up in the same areas, had the same struggles. These three are very similar and very close. Charlie Hodge is also at the breakfast table. Kong Ree has named him Cobra. Now, this is the one name that Kong Ree attempts to explain how Cobra fits Charlie Hodge, but he kind of falls apart during the explanation and isn't able to verbalize it. Now, English is not Master Ree's first language, so he may just not have been able to find the words, but Cobra is, to me, is far removed from Charlie Hodge's identity. So it's like almost the polar opposite of Charlie. Although I do think it may refer to his ability to pop up at any moment. So he doesn't really explain why it's Cobra, but Elvis feels that the Cobra also fits Charlie. So again, I'm not sure if this is a Little John situation, where in Robin Hood, Little John was a very large person, so Little John was a name that fit him because it did not fit him. I don't know if that's this situation or if Elvis sees something else in Charlie that's like a cobra. Hi, Foxy. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. Now, somebody else who's at the breakfast table in Las Vegas is Jerry Schilling. And I believe that Master Ree had met Jerry prior. He seems to know Jerry when he talks about him. And he's given him the animal name of Cougar. Master Ree explains this by saying that Jerry follows Elvis in a similar manner, that he moves in a manner that's similar to Elvis, and that he patterns his movements after Elvis. And Elvis is a great cat, a tiger. So Cougar fits Jerry well because he's not Elvis, but he's still in the great cat family. He's a cougar. And the final person that Master Ree mentions that's at this breakfast table is Marty Lacker. And Master Ree affixes the animal name Mongoose to Marty Lacker. Now, a mongoose is a quick, small mammal that kills snakes. You might know a mongoose from a famous story, which was later turned into a famous cartoon, to Ricky Tikki Tavi. And that's about a mongoose that befriends a child. And I believe it's India, where there's a lot of cobras, and the mongoose protects the child from the cobras. It's a very quick, fast, small animal. Again, I'm not sure how closely this fits Marty. And of the two that are at the table, my feeling is that Charlie Hodge and Marty Lacker, they're the two that have never practiced karate with Elvis. Charlie might have done a little bit, but my guess is Marty hasn't. It's not really Marty's style. Not really Charlie's style. So Charlie, for those who may not know Charlie Hodge, he was already famous before he met Elvis. Elvis met Charlie when Charlie was famous. Charlie was a member of the Foggy River Boys, or the Foggy Bottom Boys. I can't remember the name exactly. Foggy something boys. It was a famous quartet at the time, and they were on a national television program that Elvis and Billy Smith watched. Billy Smith is Elvis's cousin, one of his best friends. And in the late 50s, they had seen Charlie and his group performing on television in this competition, and they had rooted for him. And I believe they'd won. And then they met Charlie, both Billy and Elvis, at a performance where Elvis was, I believe, also performing. They met him backstage. And Elvis and Charlie talked a little bit. And Elvis admired Charlie professionally. Now, I don't think that Charlie was ever as good musically as Elvis, but at this moment in time, in the late 1950s, this was probably 57 or 58, probably 57. Elvis is very, very impressed with Charlie and with the group. And then when Elvis gets into the army, when he's drafted, They eventually sent him to Germany, and he boards a ship called the USS Randall. And that's the ship that takes him from America to Germany. And Charlie is on that ship because Charlie has also been drafted. He's in a different unit. He didn't do his basic training with Elvis, but he is on this ship. And Elvis finds him. They find each other. And Elvis is devastated by the loss of his mother. Elvis requests that Charlie be assigned as his bunkmate, and they have a room that's the two of them. And Charlie and Elvis bunk in there together, and Charlie listens as Elvis pours his heart out to him about his mother Gladys, and Charlie attempts to comfort Elvis. And Charlie's good with a joke. Some of Charlie's jokes were very off color, and some were very dirty. He and Lamar Fike kind of shared that love of those kind of particular jokes. But the guys often thought that humor was very funny. And Elvis found it very amusing. And Charlie really lifted Elvis's spirits while they were on that boat ride. And once they were in Germany, Charlie spent a lot of weekends when he was not required to be on base with Elvis. And he went on the adventures in Europe with Elvis. And when they came back to America, Elvis invited Charlie to visit Graceland. And Charlie came. And Elvis went to board the train that would take him to Hollywood in Memphis. It was going to take him to Hollywood to film GI Blues. And they're getting onto the train. Charlie's not going. He's not scheduled to go. He hasn't been asked. But he's ridden with all of them to the station to say goodbye to Elvis and all the guys. Vernon's with them. Charlie's going to ride back to Graceland with Vernon, get all his stuff together, and go on his own adventures. He doesn't know what they are yet. He doesn't have anything lined up. And as everybody's boarding the train, Elvis is on the steps, and he turns and he looks at Charlie and he says, "Hey, you want to go? You want to go to Hollywood?" And Charlie says, "Elvis, I don't even have any luggage. Everything that I own's back at the house, back at Graceland." And Elvis looks at him and says, "We'll buy all new stuff in California." And Charlie gets on the train. And that's how Charlie joins Elvis, and Elvis assigns a room at his house for Charlie. In every house that Elvis has for Charlie, not all the guys have a room. Very few of them do. Charlie always has a room. And he's there until the day Elvis dies. Now, Charlie does leave from time to time and go on tours of his own. He tries to keep his music career running. He has varied amount of success with that. But he always has a home with Elvis. And he's the Cobra. Now, Jerry Schilling, he's much younger than all these guys. He's younger by about 5 to 7 years than most of them. He was about 14 in 1954, right after Elvis's first record comes out. That's All Right. It's playing everywhere in the regional area on the radio. No one can keep copies of the record in a store because Sam Phillips can't print enough copies. So they're all sold out all the time. But nobody actually knows who Elvis is, because he's not really that famous yet. So he can walk down the street, nobody recognizes him. Only the people who already knew who Elvis was know who he is. Now, Jerry happens to know who he is because he lives in that neighborhood, in that area. And he knows Red. And Red and the guys are all playing touch football one day with Elvis on a Sunday. And Jerry's out there in the park, and they need one more guy to play. And they ask Jerry if he wants to play. And then he plays regularly with them on the weekends after that, whenever they play touch football. And then when Elvis comes back from the army, and he's had some of his own adventures for a couple of years, by this point, Jerry's in college. But Elvis offers to him the chance to start accompanying him to do the movies. And like Charlie, Jerry jumps on that opportunity. And that's how Jerry becomes a member of the Memphis Mafia. But Jerry doesn't stick with it the whole time. Jerry wants to have his own career. So he eventually leaves and he stays in Hollywood. But Elvis really likes Jerry. And he calls and tries to bring Jerry back into the group several times. And sometimes Jerry is with them and sometimes he's not. But Elvis loves Jerry, and he eventually buys Jerry his own house because Jerry was an orphan. And although he did grow up in a house with adults in the house, they weren't his parents. And Elvis has known that all of Jerry's life he longed for a home. And Elvis bought him a house in California that he could then make a home. And that's the house and the home that Jerry still lives in to this day. And he's the man that Kong renamed the Cougar. Now, Marty Lacker, he was also a high school, he went to high school with Elvis, like George Klein, like Red West. He knew Elvis in high school. They knew of each other. They knew each other by sight and by name. They weren't particular friends in high school, just as George Klein was not a specific friend of Elvis in high school. He was the president of the high school class, and they knew each other. They knew each other well, as far as classmates, but they didn't know each other as friends. Same with Red West. Not a huge school, so everybody knows everybody's name, and they know something about each other. After high school, Elvis is performing in 1954 on the back of a flatbed truck in a parking lot in front of a Cat's drugstore because the shopping center is opening. And they're celebrating the opening of the shopping center. And Marty Lacker is in that crowd at that Cat's, and he sees Elvis. And he realizes that the Elvis that's singing on the radio is this guy, and it's the man he went to high school with. Now, also in that crowd, watching Elvis at that flatbed truck, Becky Yancey, who later becomes Elvis's secretary, and a guy almost nobody knows, became a singer. His name was Johnny Cash. Right? Nobody remembers Johnny. Just kidding. Obviously, he's one of the most famous country singers of all time. But he started singing country, started seeking to perform and to record because he was at this concert and saw Elvis on the back of a flatbed truck. And Marion is pointing out that a cobra, which is the name of Charlie Hodge, makes itself look bigger and dangerous by blowing up the head skin. And Charlie was a small man, small in stature, He was short, somewhat like Connery himself. I think Charlie was a little thicker. Connery was in especially great physical shape. Very difficult to match Connery's physical fitness level. But I do think that Charlie did swell himself up in a manner to appear bigger than he was. I've heard some stories about women that he talked to, women that he was attempting to impress, and he did inflate his stories somewhat and his stature within the group. So that's very interesting that you would point that out, Marion, because maybe that is the reason that he was named Cobra and that Elvis felt it fit him. It also sounds really super dangerous, right? That's why I didn't think of it connected to Charlie as much. But I'm sure Charlie appreciated it because it did sound dangerous. And Linda's verifying it's the Foggy River Boys. That is the name of the group that Charlie was part of. Thank you, Linda. My memory for specific names is just so terrible. And Marion's pointing out that Charlie seemed to be loyal and funny. I think he was absolutely loyal, 100% trustworthy. Funny depends on your sense of humor. I think Charlie would push things to where many people became uncomfortable with his humor. But yes, he could be hilarious. Very much like Lamar Fike. And Linda says that she doesn't know that Charlie ever betrayed Elvis. I don't think he ever did. I think he said some things like about bone cancer after Elvis had passed away. And it's not so much that he told stories out of turn as he wasn't in on the real information enough. But because of his proximity to Elvis, people believed things that Charlie said were 100% true, and they were 100% truthful. Charlie believed them to be the truth. They just weren't accurate to fact. But I don't know of any time that Charlie said anything bad about Elvis. And he was actually very tactful about all the other guys as well, especially for some of the things they said about him. Hi, Terry. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. And Gunn says that she thinks that Cobra sounds like a girlish karate name, but she wonders what kind of name the girls got. That's a good question, Gunn, because we don't have any examples of any female animal names that Master Ree gave. But we know there were females in the class. So that's a very interesting question. And Linda says that her memory works in spurts too, just like mine. And Linda says that she thinks Kathy W. told about the bone cancer too. So I think that was an indication that of the diagnostic issues that they had. Like Dr. Nick didn't really know what was wrong with Elvis. And I think at one point, maybe he had mentioned to Elvis that this could be bone cancer, or that they were checking for bone cancer. And then that story becomes warped as it moves its way through the inner circle. And so I don't know of Kathy W. to be a liar of any kind either. So it feels like they did receive this information that Elvis had bone cancer, and they truly believed it. And that's the impression they were under. And why wouldn't they be? Because they didn't have access to any direct information about Elvis' health. And Marion says that Charlie appears a bit scary to her in one of his interviews. I think Charlie could be, with females, a little handsy or a little forward. And that comes across in some of their interviews about Charlie. And Charlie definitely pushes the envelope with his humor. So he'll say things that are nearly shocking. It would have been much more shocking during the time period. So Charlie was an acquired taste, very similar to Lamar Fike. Elvis really liked these two individuals, and Priscilla really liked Charlie, so he must have been able to turn on the charm when he wanted to and keep it running. But I know the interview you're talking about, or there's a couple of them, so I know what you're talking about that Charlie does that seems scary or odd or a little strange. And Gunn's saying that Elvis mentioned pain in his legs, didn't he? I don't know exactly what pains Elvis was mentioning. I mean, I'm guessing from some of the medications he got that he was complaining about pain in his chest. And we can imagine that because he had a liver biopsy, he must have been having pain in his abdomen. I don't think it's out of the question that a man in his early 40s would have pain in his legs as well. And that some of that might be radiating out of his abdomen. And that might have led them to believe that he had a bone cancer issue. And they were testing for that. And again, the diagnostics of this period are so primitive that they might have just started testing for everything in an attempt to figure out what this was. And Linda says that she believes Elvis mentioned pain all over at times. Yes. I don't remember specifically about his legs, but I do remember people mentioning that he had pain in different areas. And hi, Pat. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. And I don't know, Linda's saying that he said he hurt all over. And I don't know that that's actually connected to any of his internal issues. As an older man myself, I'm willing to tell you that there's a lot of muscular skeletal pains that go with the aging process. And when you're young, you have none of these. So as each of them pop up, they become like all consuming for a while. This new pain that you have in this portion of your back, or this pain that you have in your leg. So that may have just been normal aging. And he's somewhat abusing his body with the karate, right? It's exercise and healthy, but at the same time, I'm sure you take some damage to your body while you're doing this. Some muscle tears, some bruising, some bleeding, and you got to recover from those things. And he's doing the shows, which are extremely energetic. And I think there's good possibilities he's pulled muscles and stuff while he's doing that. I know that every time I go and pick up a box now, I got to be worried that I'm going to feel it the next day. And Pat says that I can say that again. She's feeling it now. And Marion says she remembers Charlie mentioning that Elvis had pain in his fingers. Yeah, so I think he did have a lot of pain, and I think some of it was from aging, and I think that also masked what his real issues were. Because like the liver biopsy doctor said, you know, this isn't exactly what he said, but I'm paraphrasing. Hey, you're fat. You need to lose some weight. It's causing pain to your back. So the liver doctor was not able to tell from the biopsy that his liver was truly enlarged. They didn't find any of these issues till after the autopsy. So they're shooting in the dark on how to treat him all this time, too. Linda says that she knows about these aging pains that we're talking about. But back to the breakfast table. Connery says, everybody enjoy their title. So Master Ree remembers this as a good time. They went around the table. Everybody got an animal name or said what their animal name was. They talked for a minute about why they had these animal names. And they had a good time. Everybody enjoyed their title. And then Master Ree says, this giving attitude, and he's talking about Elvis, and Elvis's generosity, and the generosity that he's witnessing while he's, the whole time that he's known Elvis, but also while he's in Las Vegas. This giving attitude destroyed all angles and all elegance and all that martial ego. He is the master of love. So Master Ree is indicating that part of the reason that he has, he eventually grants Elvis the 7th degree black belt, like we saw, and the other honors, and the reason that he learns more from Elvis than he teaches Elvis is that his generosity and his love are greater than Master Ree's martial arts skills. And that the lessons that Elvis has brought to the table, Master Ree now has to add to his understanding of karate and what he teaches going forward. And to him, Elvis is the master of love. Now, Pat says that the harder you work, the more pain you feel when you get older. That's probably true because you'll wear out pieces of your body faster, and Elvis worked very hard when he was young. So did Vernon, and Vernon had a lot of physical issues as well. And Gunn says, isn't 40-ish too early to talk about aging problems? Well, in my own experience, I didn't feel a lot of pain at age 40, but the medical experience I did have is I wear glasses. I'm nearsighted, so I can see things that are close without glasses. I don't have any problem. Anything within 5 feet. Anything beyond that, though, is a blur. And so I've worn glasses since I was like 16. And I just kept them on my face all the time. And when I needed to see far away, I looked far away. And when I needed to see close, I looked close. And as I approached age 40, I noticed that I was having a hard time focusing on things that were close, like a book. I couldn't read with my glasses on. So I went to the vision doctor, and during the exam, I told him about this issue, and said, I was thinking maybe my sight for things that are near was also going bad, and maybe I was going to need bifocals or something. And the vision doctor started laughing. And he said, no, your prescription's fine for the glasses. And he says, you're just getting old. Welcome to the club. So what he told me was that at age 40, your eyes no longer focus as quickly between far distance and near distance. And that in my case, because I did a lot of it, I'm noticing it a lot. And it's not only irritating, I have to take my glasses off to be able to look at the screen on the computer to read a book or something. And he said, get used to it. It's just going to continue to get worse. So the pain and stuff, the aging really is around age 40. You've already gone past your prime in your middle 30s. And all the cells in your body are beginning to die off. They're reaching the end of their life cycles. Now, you're continuously losing cells and regenerating them. But when you get past age 35, you now begin to regenerate less than you lose. It's not a lot at first, but over time it adds up, and that's what causes like wrinkles and aging. So those effects from the aging begin to be felt sometime in the 40s, in most cases. Now, if you keep yourself physically fit and you do a lot of exercising and you eat well, maybe not. Maybe you'll make it a lot farther. But that's just my personal experience. So all of us have our own personal experience. And I doubt there's any of us in here that are under 40. According to the stats that YouTube shows me, nobody under 40 watches this channel. And the people that are under 50 that watch it I could probably count them on one hand. So we tend to skew older for this channel. There's a little interesting YouTube fact there. And Linda says that most of the jobs she did were physical. Hi, Teresa. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. And Terry says that Elvis never really rested. He was always on the go his whole career. And Pat says that she's 60 and she's been on the go the whole time too. And Marion says that deep inside, she's still 20. That's good, Marion, because I've got you beat by 2 years. I'm 18. So Connery, he talks about the breakfast at the Hilton. Linda chimes in and she says that she is 74. So yes, we're a more mature group here at Hillbilly Cat History. So if you know any young people that love Elvis, drag them here any way that you have to. And bring your fellow mature fans with you as well. And Terry says that he has pain in his legs when he walks too much. And Gunn says they say 60 is the new 50. Well, the 60-year-olds say that, and that's what I'll be saying when I hit that age. I'm getting too close. And Pat wants us all to go back to age 18. And I would take us all there if I could. But I'm actually taking us back to sometime in the 1970s when I'm sure we all were much younger. And Connery says about breakfast, he says, Elvis eating a very heavy breakfast, dozen of the bacons, 2 or 3 eggs, honeydew melons. He loved the honeydew melons. So Master Ree has noticed what Elvis is eating during the breakfast, and he says he's eating 12 strips of bacon. That's the dozen of the bacons. And to Connery, that's a lot of bacon. 2 or 3 eggs. I don't know how Master Ree feels about the eggs. Might be fine. And honeydew melons. And apparently, he's seen Elvis eat many of these honeydew melons because he says Elvis loved the honeydew melons. Actually, it sounds to me like a very healthy breakfast and nearly one of these all-protein diets that they talk about now, with the exception of the melons, which I've always felt that sugar from fruits probably a lot more healthy than sugar that you've gotten that's processed. So if you're going to have any sugar intake, I feel like you're going to eat as much fruit as you want. And if that's what's putting the pounds on you, you'll find a way to easily deal with that. But that fruit is probably not the main culprit in extra weight. So I feel like what Elvis is saying, what Connery is describing, is very healthy with the exception of all 12 strips of bacon, maybe a couple less strips of bacon. But if you were on an all-protein diet, they would be fine with that. Like one of these carnivore diets. And while they're at the breakfast table, Elvis tells Charlie to go get his checkbook. And when Charlie comes back, Elvis writes a check for $50,000. So this check would be the equivalent today of over $400,000. I believe it'd be around $450,000. So almost the equivalent of $500,000 today. Elvis writes this check for $50,000. He gives it to Master Ree. Tells him that he wants him to use it to improve his studio. Now, Master Ree explains that he makes about $2,000 a month. That's what he normally brings in. Now, I happen to know that he was paying Bill Superfoot Wallace like $750 a month, according to Superfoot. And so I think what Master Ree is telling us is that he profits $2,000 a month. After all the expenses are paid, he's bringing in $2,000. $2,000 a month at that time would have been like $15,000 or $16,000 today, maybe even more. Master Ree and his studio, the dojo, the Tiger Man Dojo Karate and Museum that you can go into today as a museum, that building, Connery was very successful. He's pulling in $15,000 a month in today's economy. And I'm assuming that's after the expenses are paid. So he's making the equivalent of around $200,000 a year today. So he is a well-off individual. Top of middle class, I would say. But Elvis is handing him a check for $50,000. And Master Ree's not especially comfortable with that. But Charlie, he tells him, you should take it because he really wants to give it to you. And so Master Ree says, I have this $50,000 check from Elvis in my hand. He says he wants me to take it. Others in the room are saying that he wants me to take it. What do I do with it? Well, I did what anyone would do, and he put it in his wallet. And he took that check and he took it as the gift that it was intended. So Elvis gave Master Ree $50,000 in one shot, in one check. Now, if you've been following the Circle G series, we know that people were very concerned just a few years before this, in 1967, when Elvis spent $100,000 on horses in a single month. And they became very concerned. Well, here Elvis has spent half that amount at breakfast to a single person. So Elvis's spending and gifting and use of money, it has not only kept up with inflation, I mean, it's expanded exponentially. Elvis is playing with a lot more money, a lot larger numbers anyway, than he used to, which would indicate to us that he has more money. So the tours must have been fantastic in terms of earning cash. Or this was a lot of money he maybe couldn't afford. I don't know. But it's $50,000. And Pat's saying that they say that sugar in any form is not good for you. Yeah, they said a lot of stuff, Pat. They're always telling me something. And Gunn says that in her head, she's still 35 to 40. And Pat says, it's amazing how Elvis was so gifted to give someone else money because he had a lot of faith in them. Yeah, he had a lot of faith in Master Ree. That's true. And Gunn says she never thought of Elvis as old. Wonder how he himself felt about aging. It's a good question, Gunn. I think he had some issues with it. And I think that if we look at William Shatner in the 1980s, as he aged into the Star Trek movies, that he dealt with a lot of these issues that I think Elvis was beginning to feel, because they're very similar in age, William Shatner's a little older. But he and Elvis were very similar in age. So Shatner's struggles with aging and physicality, those are much more open, I think, than Elvis's. But I think they would have been similar. And Terry says Elvis said once he didn't want to be 40 up on stage singing Heartbreak Hotel. Right, Terry, because at that point in his life, he thought 40 was old. But I think we were all there where we thought 40 was old. I have to say I don't think it's old anymore, but that's because I'm well over 40 now. And Marion says that Master Ree seemed to be a generous man too. More than a third of $2,000 a month to Mr. Wallace is a lot. So I think that what Wallace got was before Ree was counting the 2,000. So, like, really, Ree's bringing in something like 3,000 to 4,000 in the business, because he's got more than one teacher, I'm sure. So maybe he's bringing in 5,000, and he's got to pay so much for rent. He's got to pay so much for expenses. He's got to pay the teachers, and then he nets out 2,000 a month. That's what I think he's saying. But he could be saying it's gross, and then he's running the whole business of 2,000 a month. That could be. And Pat saying, Matt, who you believe? Who do you believe about? Who tells us stuff about health? Yeah, I don't know. It's not the government. That's what I can tell you. The government doesn't have any idea what we should and should be. And Teresa says Elvis always had a beautiful heart. And Linda says that she, in her head, is young, but her body sometimes sends a different message when she moves around. And Gunn says that all Elvis pain may not be age-related. His mother died young, too. Exactly, Gunn. But I think the aging may mask why, to the doctors, the complaints of the pain. They hear it from everyone, right? And his complaints are not specific. They're unspecified, like I have leg pain, but that's not very specific. It's not, and they're not able to diagnose based on his descriptions what the issue is. And Pat says that she doesn't think of 40 as old either. It was also different back then, because like someone else has said, 50 or 60 is the new 50. Well, back then there was no news. The 40 wasn't the new 30, it was 40. And we've seen, even in Elvis's own life, people die in their 30s and 40s from, Elvis's mom died of natural causes. So he's also got people that are dying from alcohol abuse around him. So he sees a lot of people die at what we would think is a young age. But they're gone. So I think that affects your ideas of how old you are too. I don't know that that would affect his pain in any way though, but it's a little bit of talking off the top of my head there. And Marion says that her body muscles hurt everywhere because of an accident, and that she gets rid of the pain by stretching, and she did that for about 4 years. That's interesting. And Gunn saying that he could have inherited some diseases. That's definitely a theory. Someone who feels that Elvis was destined to die young, they would agree with that theory. Wrote a whole book about it. Their book tends to agree with a previous doctor's book about it, but his had strong motivations to prove certain things about the safety of the drugs that Elvis was taking, which probably were not safe. But it's definitely possible that he was genetically disposed. Now, unfortunately, I have, again, when I looked at the notes for this episode, I felt for sure we were going to get to the drummer that I indicated in the title. But we're not going to make it there because we have, again, hit our hour. But let's jump forward in our pictures just a moment. This drummer that we see on screen, his name is Hal Blaine. Blaine. Hal Blaine. He played on a lot of Elvis songs. He knew Elvis. Wasn't a personal friend, but he was a professional acquaintance. He worked with Elvis professionally, and he knew the Memphis Mafia, and he says that he was friends with many of them. So in our next episode, we'll get to know Hal Blaine more and why I've connected him to the karate story. He does not know karate. He does not practice karate. But he's got something to tell us about karate. And we're going to learn about him in the next episode. But for now, I'm going to leave you guys with a song. And this song is He Gave Us Everything.
"17, snow on the ground, Circle G, love all around. He bought that ranch, opened the gate, said come on in, let's celebrate. Tractor pulling through the snow, laughter rising, spirits glow. Both behind, wives and men, family fun again and again. He wasn't just a star in lights, he was the warmth in winter nights. Kindness wrapped in velvet flame, a heart that never played the fame. He gave us joy, he gave us grace, a piano song in a quiet place. From a jack to a king, in the moonlight ring, he gave us love, he gave us way. Gave us everything. Riding horses, legs so still, bridge and cross on the quiet hill. Barbecue smoke, stories told, moments more precious than gold. He'd ask me who I'm dating now, what I dream, what I'll allow. He cared like kin, not just a name. He lived for love, not for acclaim. He wasn't just a voice on stage, he was the soul behind the page. A man who'd sing to heal your day and laugh at midnight, lose away. He gave us joy, he gave us grace, a piano song in a quiet place. From a jack to a king, in the moonlight ring, he gave us love, he gave us grace. Circle G, where the angels sing, he gave us everything. A shadow in the night, famous face, but heart so us everything. He gave us everything.